Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and in my video yesterday I was like, oh, this reaction is the calm before the storm, and I guess I was right. I was right, because Amberlynn's Members Only live stream last night, she was on a different level, on a little bit of a different level, and there's two things that I mostly want to talk about when it comes to things that she discussed. I mean, largely the video or the live stream itself was mostly about her coming on, you know, like I mentioned yesterday that she had posted a community post that was like, there's something I really need to talk to you all about. Well, the thing that she really needed to talk to everybody about was that she's apparently contemplating doing a public live stream where she's just gonna let people ask her anything they want about Beck and her relationship with Beck. So that's largely what she spends a lot of time talking about. So I'm gonna share my brief thoughts about that. Well, I don't know, brief-ish. And then I'm also going to share my thoughts on the other part that I'm sure some people are interested in hearing my thoughts on, which is her bringing me up and using the word abusive to describe me once again. Just how much that is just like wild to me, like why she keeps projecting that word onto me. So that's really the game plan for today. That's what I'm hoping to address, hoping to cover. I'm gonna be honest with you, I had planned to try to watch the live stream while it was happening in real time last night, but I wasn't able to get to it. So I've spent almost my entire day today, like catching up on the live stream and then going back to some of my old videos to pull some receipts to just show how awful and terrible I was, to really drive home Amberlynn's point. So I've been busy, and I'm kind of worried that this might get posted a little late tonight because I'm trying to film this and then I have to head to therapy and then I have to live stream on Twitch. So we'll see when I get time to actually edit it, because I want to make sure to edit in all of these clips, edit in all of the things that really matter, because I think it's important, because Miss Amberlynn Reed is out here doing whatever she can in the midnight hour before Casey comes out with his podcast, before Beck and Destiny do their collaboration. She's doing some damage control and or some PR deflection, and we really need to just nip that in the bud so we can focus on other things and not let her deflect from the things that are about to come out about her. Not that I know what any of those people are gonna say, but it just seems like she's prepping for the worst, and so she's like, how can I make this about anybody else but me? So let's start by really addressing what she spent the majority of her time in this live stream talking about. And she comes on here and she's like, I want to do a public live stream where I can address all of the things about Beck that the people want to know.
It's like they have shared things that are true, that are embarrassing, things that I am ashamed of, things that I want to take accountability for. And so many people are like, okay, what are you accountable for then? Like, what is it? Okay, true, fair. I haven't said. And then there are things that like Beck is lying about, Beck is exaggerating about, and people are like, okay, then what is it? Like, what is it then? I'm like, okay, fair. And then people are asking me about certain situations in general, like the inheritance money. Like, what is your point of view? What is your side? And then I ignore it all. And I'm realizing my silence is like making people like just genuinely assume that Beck is telling the truth about everything. I don't know if I'm going to regret this, but I want to go live publicly and I want people to ask me anything they want genuinely. And I want to take accountability on the things that are like real and true. As much as it's going to suck for me and be really, really embarrassing and horrific, I want to. I also want to clarify things. I want to be like, Beck said this isn't true, and that's not very fair. It will not be a place for me to bash Beck. It's not going to be a place for me to spill all of their dirty laundry, because I'm telling you, I'm not all bad and Beck is not all good, but that is the way that people are viewing the whole situation. So I'm confused because my silence is like, it's not helpful. It's not doing anything. So yeah, I'm just gonna take a minute.
And one of the things that you need to know about this particular members only live stream is that she never really, I mean, there's a few things that she kind of touches on briefly, but for all intents and purposes, she doesn't spend any time taking accountability for anything, talking about anything, just like hypothesizing about a world where maybe she'll do this public live stream and take accountability and answer questions. She also spends a lot of time in the live stream insisting that Beck is a liar, while simultaneously at different points talking about how she wants to validate Beck.
I want to validate Beck and where I did wrong 100,000 million %. Absolutely.
But I think you all know that at this point that Amberlynn has repeatedly said that she wasn't going to talk about Beck to protect her own peace. She had the little Instagram stories that she made about it.
So I've not been with them in almost 5 years. I am a completely different person than I was then. And I'm sure Beck is also a different person than they were then. Nothing was perfect. And I'm going to let you know that some of the things that Beck has said has been true. And some of the things have been flat out lies. No matter what I say, if I defend myself or not, people will choose to believe Beck. That is the way my whole YouTube career has gone. It's not going to be any different now. So I would rather people believe every single thing that they said just to protect my mental health from having to defend myself to a bunch of people who already have their opinion made up. You know, to be honest, I would rather come clean about the stuff that's true than like sit there and like defend myself over the stuff that isn't true. I just realized that. Like, I would rather be like, yeah, like I'm going to take full accountability. That did happen. Those things did happen. But the stuff that I have to defend myself on, girl, I would rather sit in like a lava, like a bowl of lava, and just let my skin burn off at that point, like truly.
She said it in her members only live stream last week when people were asking about Beck's inheritance.
Do you have a different point of view about the money? If you do, then just say so. Blinking everyone doesn't make it go away. I don't know what you mean by blinking everyone, but yes, I do have a different point of view, and I have a different point of view of a lot of things that have been said and done, but I said that I do not want to talk about them. So respect that boundary, please. Thank you. I have boundaries that I have set, and if you can't respect those, then you can get the fuck out. It's that simple. And yeah.
And yeah, she mostly has just been saying, like, I've got to protect my peace. I'm not going to talk about this. You can't make me talk about this. You got to respect my boundaries. I think what you'll note as we talk today is that Amberlynn's boundaries are always moving. Amberlynn's boundaries shift as she needs them to shift for the narrative that she wants to tell on her channel. Because yeah, now the idea is seemingly that she feels like her silence is just making people believe that everything about Beck or that Beck is saying is true. And so it feels like now she's like, well, I gotta do something because everybody thinks I'm doing all these bad things. But honestly, to me, the concept of having to do this in a public live stream is just kind of silly to me. It feels like a cash grab. Because first of all, if she wanted to address all of these things, like she's currently live in this live stream, right? So like she could start addressing them there. I do think that like if she's gonna address stuff, she should do it publicly. Like I don't think it should be behind a paywall. So to that extent, I would agree with that. But I also am like, girl, you could also just sit down in a video and address them. Like, there's no need for you to have to get into a live stream and address the public that way. Like, you say that there are things that you know that Beck is being honest about and you want to take accountability about, and then you say there are things that you know Beck is lying about. So just get in a video, sit down, and address those things. Like, it really feels like you just want a public live stream so that you can collect super chats from the people who are inevitably going to send you super chats. And, you know, she does somewhat address that at some point. She claims that, like, the reason she wants to do it live is so that she can't avoid the tough questions or questions she doesn't necessarily want to answer. But let's not act like she's not currently doing members-only live streams where she ignores people who are paying members of her channel and doesn't answer their questions. That was literally the basis of her entire live stream last week. So yeah, I'm not buying that, like, this has to be a public live stream. I think she knows what's real and what's not. Or, like, I think she already knows what she thinks is real and what's not real, or what is the truth and what's not the truth. So I just don't understand why we're, like, sitting around here waiting for the right time. Because also, honestly, it sounds like it would be so much easier for you to do, less anxiety inducing for you to do behind a camera without an audience, because that way you wouldn't have the stress of people being hecticona in your chat. And in general, I also think it's weird that she's coming to the internet to ask for this help. She does say in the live stream that she's already talked this over with, like, people in her personal life. And it's just like, why are you trusting people on the internet more than whatever the people in your personal life said, you know? Like, I just honestly, like, even amongst her members only, like, membership, that was redundant. But even amongst people who pay to be her members, there are people that don't have her best interests. And even amongst the people that do have her best interests, many people were saying, I don't know, Amberlynn, this sounds like a bad idea. So, like, why come on and ask this question? And why ask all these people in your personal life this question if it seems like you're already going to do this anyways, regardless of what the answer is from your chat or the people in your personal life. One of the things that I think was really weird and fucked up is that she said that, you know, her not talking about all of this has always been just like her doing what was best for Beck.
And that's been the part that's been wild for me, is they said, don't speak about me. So I stopped. To protect their peace, while inside I've been feeling tormented. So whose peace am I protecting? Theirs.
And honestly, girl fucking where? And it is wild to me because before this particular live stream, it's always been about protecting your peace. I mean, it was about protecting your peace in that Instagram story I already showed, right? Like, you specifically have talked about it in terms of protecting you. Now, all of a sudden, you want to say that the real reason you haven't been talking about shit is because you're protecting Beck? Girl, what the fuck ever? And weirdly enough, it reminds me so much of her recent reaction that she did to herself, where she was reacting to the video where she was confronting all the things she's lied about. And if you recall, when it came to that video, she claimed all of her lies were to protect somebody else. It's starting to feel like a convenient way for her to just avoid accountability. It's a convenient way for her to write off, like, the things she's doing because, I'm such a good person. I was just doing this to protect other people. She also tells on herself a bit at one point because somebody asks, like, why would Beck propose to you if they were, like, having such a miserable experience being in a relationship with you?
I've always been confused on how, if you were this Losita, why did they propose after all that? I don't know. I heard, like, I know other people's opinions is that because Beck felt forced. I never once told them to propose to me. Ever. But I know that when people are in toxic relationships, sometimes it is hard to get out. I relate to that, actually. I do. So proposing to an outside perspective, it is confusing. But I can see why it happened, because when you are in a toxic relationship or a relationship that you're not happy in, sometimes it is hard leaving.
And it's like, oh, so you agree. You think that Beck was stuck in a toxic relationship with you. Okay. All right, Diva, tell on yourself a little bit. And I will say, she does admit at different points in this live stream more than once that, you know, she does have some regrets about being so controlling of Beck. But it's like, that's just the tip of the iceberg, girly pop. Like, I need you to talk about the specific ways that you were controlling, the specific things that you think you could have done differently or would do differently, and really apologize for those things. And apparently the whole thing that triggered all of this was the conversation surrounding Beck's inheritance. Which is interesting to me because, again, remember, last week in her members-only live stream, it was all about protecting her boundaries, protecting herself by putting up these boundaries. And, like, you know, she wasn't going to talk about the inheritance because she has boundaries. And listen, okay? Listen, generally, I feel like anybody can come onto the internet and share whatever they want. I'm not here to gatekeep what Amberlynn does or doesn't do. If Amberlynn wants to come on here and refute everything that Beck had to say about her, she's more than welcome to do it, and I'll be sitting here watching. But she's the one that has been coming onto the internet and harping about her boundaries and people needing to respect her boundaries and this, that, the other. And this is what I mean when I say Homegirl does not even respect her own boundaries. Homegirl does not even care about these alleged boundaries that she gets mad about people crossing or not respecting. And she's the one that came onto the internet that said she was going to protect her peace by not addressing Beck, and yet here we are weeks later and she's still talking about Beck any chance she can get. And you know, at different points in this live stream, she does address her changing opinion on that, and I think, like, people are absolutely welcome to, like, change their opinions with new information and things like that. I'm even going to talk about that in regards to myself in this video today. But she's constantly shifting her boundaries to whatever feels like is going to help her at the time. And that's not what a boundary is, right? like you don't make boundaries just to, like, ignore them the next week. What Amberlynn uses boundaries for is excuses for accountability, right? Ways to get out of taking accountability about things related to Beck, but also ways to avoid taking accountability for most things in her life. I mean, what's so funny to me is that she did this live stream on the very exact same day that she posted a video where she was talking about the boundaries she was going to set up in regards to going to therapy and how she didn't want to talk about her therapy appointments. Which, again, I think is healthy and fine to do, but also leaves me wondering, are you just avoiding talking about your therapy appointments because you don't want to have to take accountability for what work you are or are not doing in those therapy appointments? I don't know, when you're willing to just throw away any boundary that you give, because again, she has boundaries around, like, diets. She's talked about boundaries on her channel, talking about her weight loss, diets she's on, and she always gives them up all the time. So it's like, what boundaries do you fucking want us to take seriously, Amberlynn? Like, for real, diva. So yeah, I mean, she talks at length about so many things in this, and it's very annoying how, you know, she'll talk about 1 minute wanting to validate Beck and, like, apologize to Beck for the things that she did to Beck, but also will simultaneously be like, well, I don't know, Beck's lying about a lot of stuff. Which, like, it's not to say that it couldn't be the truth that, like, maybe Beck was not the perfect person in this relationship either. But for Amberlynn to also at different points say, you know what would be easier? Instead of just coming on here and talking about the things that Beck said that weren't true, I would like to just take accountability for those things. Amberlynn's still out here insisting that Beck was a bad person, insisting that Beck did this, that, the other, but has yet to provide any even anecdotes about ways that Beck wasn't a good partner to her. And it's really starting to grind my gears because it's really like a put up or shut up, diva. Like, if Beck is really out here doing bad things to you or did bad things to you in the past, then, like, prove it, show it, talk about it. I don't know. But, like, you getting upset that people are only believing Beck's story and, like, are looking at this in a black and white way where Beck is the hero and Amberlynn's the villain. Well, girl, you in this 2-hour live stream, you did next to nothing to refute any of that. You just sat here and hypothesized about what it would look like to come onto a live stream and address this stuff. Girl, say something or don't. Shit or get off the pot. It's infuriating to sit here and watch you talk about all the ways that you want to address these things and don't. You don't take accountability. You don't talk about the ways that Beck's lying. You don't do shit. You don't do shit. You want to do something, do it. If you wanted to, you would. You're sitting on a live stream with a captive audience. Say something or don't. Like, that's what's wild to me. She acts like she doesn't have a platform to say whatever the fuck she wants. She acts like she doesn't have 200,000 some subscribers that subscribe to her channel. It's like, you have the avenues, you have the platform. If you wanted to, you would. So either do or don't, diva. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through all 2 hours of everything she said, but that was my general, like, irritation with that aspect of this video. It's just that, like, she really, really was grinding my gears. It was a really tough watch, to be honest with you. The other part that directly addresses me, involves me, was actually such a short part of the video, or of the live stream, I should say, rather. And so here is the full clip of everything she had to say about yours truly, Zachary Michael, Zachary Marie, The Zachary Show, The Zachary Mike, okay?
People are seeing me as all bad and Beck all good, and automatically they're going to believe everything Beck says, even though, like, they used to hate Beck. Like, I was actually going to film a reaction video to one of my most popular reacted videos. It was when I was reacting to Zachary Michael reacting to me walking to a tree, and I started the reaction and I realized how much of Beck was in the reaction, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is, like, okay for me to do. And then as I was doing it, I realized Zach was a dick to Beck, like a dick. Like, it left me shocked. Like, my jaw was on the floor. Like, for a minute there, I forgot, like, Zach was abusive to Beck. Are you kidding? Like, I would, like, compliment Beck and Zach would be like, no, like, just rude, just straight up rude. And I know Zach is watching, which is really hecticana, because he says he doesn't want to watch these, but yet he knows exactly everything that goes down in them. Like, you're weird. Anyways, it's just like, there's a lot of hypocrite stuff going on, and I just can't. Like, I genuinely just can't with it all. Like, Zach, how about you apologize to Beck for what you did with the GoFundMe? How about every single reaction channel do that? How about you do that? Like, please don't get me started. Like, two things can happen at once. I was a dick to Beck, but guess what? So were you guys. So were you guys. You guys were fucking horrific, okay? Sorry, I just had a moment. How am I still sticking up for whatever? I am who I am.
So obviously there's a lot of things I can address there, but first and foremost, what I really want to say is that if Beck wants to talk to me, or wants to make a video about me, or wants to talk about the ways that I've harmed them, what I can promise is that I will listen to it and hear that feedback. Perhaps one day Beck will make a video about me and or other reaction channels and the way that we impacted their life when they were with Amberlynn Reed. Or maybe Beck will choose to, like, reach out to me privately. However Beck wants to do it, like, that's totally their prerogative, and I would be welcome to hear whatever feedback they might have for me. But the reality is, at this point in time, at this moment in time, Beck hasn't done any of that. Beck is not out here talking about the ways that reaction channels impacted their life. Beck is out here talking about the very specific ways that Amberlynn Reed has impacted their life. Beck has shared many stories, many personal anecdotes, in some ways like proof of the ways that Amberlynn made them miserable. This deflection tactic of Amberlynn's, and to be quite honest, projection of abuse onto others of Amberlynn's, is really just, like, doing me in. The fact that you want to sit here and claim that other people were abusive to Beck while you lived with Beck for several years, while you were actually physically there with Beck, in a relationship with Beck, and Beck has come out and talked about the many different ways you negatively impacted their life, Girly Pop, I am a reaction channel that lives several states away from y'all. All right, like several states away. I was a reaction channel that neither of you had to click on. Neither of you had to watch my content. Neither of you had to engage with it. Was I critical of Beck at different points during your relationship? Yes, absolutely. I can't sit here and list all the ways, but I know that I was. In fact, like, I mean, obviously now with more information and things like that, like my opinion has changed, but I do remember back in the day, I would talk about Beck being an enabler of Amberlynn and like thinking that Beck enabled Amberlynn's behavior. I think now, obviously getting another side to the story, another perspective, another thing that we didn't see while Beck was actually in that relationship, I would absolutely take that back. Like, it absolutely, to me, is clear that Beck was in a situation where they felt financially obligated to do things for Amberlynn, because if they didn't help Amberlynn, if they didn't take care of Amberlynn, if they didn't do what Amberlynn wanted at any given point, they didn't have the financial funds to take care of themselves. So yeah, I have absolutely been critical of Beck in the past, probably in ways that like my opinions have very much changed today. In the same way that I don't necessarily think about Amberlynn in the same way that I did back then either, to be honest with you. I mean, specifically today, I have probably the least amount of fucking sympathy for Amberlynn Reed than I've had in my history of watching her. So like, things absolutely do change. But anyways, all of that is besides the point. Like, Amberlynn bringing up that I was abusive to Beck by being critical in some videos is just projection on her end and also deflection on her end, right? Like, it's like, put the attention on somebody else because I don't want to have to address the fact that I did some fucked up shit to Beck when I was in a relationship with them. But you know, while we're at it, I mentioned that I spent a good chunk of time looking at old videos of mine for some receipts. So let's talk about the old walking to the tree video, shall we? And I guess like really in general, let me just be clear on a few things here. All of the stuff that she's addressing, whether it's my original walking to the tree reaction video or my reaction to her reacting to me reacting to her walking to a tree video, or even the videos about the GoFundMe for Beck's mom, all of that stuff is still up on my channel because I don't have any like regrets about posting those things from that time. All of these things are things that you can go back and watch, and in fact, if I can remember to do this, and once I finally get everything edited, I will even try to link to some of those videos so you could watch them for yourself. Now, I watched through my reaction to the walking to the tree, and I watched through the reaction to the reaction of her reacting to me reacting to the tree or whatever. Oh my god, such reaction inception. Actually, thank God she didn't actually react to herself reacting to me reacting to her walking to the tree, because I just don't have it in my brain right now to think about what it would be like for me to react to her reacting to me reacting to her walking to a tree. You know, so thank God that reaction didn't make it to the light of day. But the worst things that really happened in that video when it comes to things that I had to say about Beck was a particular situation in that video where Amberlynn talked about Beck looking aesthetically pleasing. And in the particular shot, I was like, Beck looks miserable there. And I held up my magnifying glass and I said, where? Girl, where's the aesthetically pleasing? Maybe I need to put some glasses on to see better. Let me see. Nope, I don't see anything aesthetically pleasing. Listen, that's mean. Okay, I apologize.
Yes, that is mean. I thought Becky looked good in her white t-shirt with her white sunglasses. Like, that's a compliment. I'm giving my girlfriend a compliment. And he's being flat out rude. Like, talking about Becky's appearance. It's not okay.
It's a lot, but she looks miserable. Okay, yes, so this was all in, she paused in the middle of this whole thought. I was waiting to see what she included or kept in. But the whole thing, because what I realized as I was filming this, right, but I left it in because it was all one thought, was that when I said that, it was gonna come across as I was thinking that Becky looked fat or Becky didn't have cute clothes on, as I guess Amberlynn was interpreting it. And I knew that that's not what I intended to say, so that's why I stopped myself, apologized because that sounded mean, and then I corrected myself to say, she looks miserable, she looks unhappy to be there. Like, nothing about that is like aesthetically pleasing. She looks hot and miserable. She doesn't look happy to be there. Like, nothing about that is aesthetically pleasing.
She's hot. She is happy to be there. We're outside, enjoying the fresh air.
Listen.
Yeah, when people are hot and sweaty, they don't always look the happiest.
Right. Okay, whatever narrative you want to sell, first of all, that she's happy to be there, that's fine. Even if you're really hot because you're outside, you can still be miserable. That doesn't mean, like you can be enjoying being outside, but also be miserable from the heat and miserable from you walking. Like, whatever narrative you're really trying to sell here, fine, great. But my opinion is that she looks miserable. Like, she doesn't look like she wants to be there. She doesn't want to be out here with you.
If she didn't want to be out there with me, she wouldn't have been out there with me. Becky has free will of her own body and her own mouth.
I'm sure she does. To be quite honest with you, after rewatching that, it's honestly probably more realistic to me that Amberlynn didn't post that video, because it really showed the things that Beck has been talking about, which is that Beck has talked a lot about how they didn't want to be filming half the time, they were miserable most of the time, they didn't enjoy filming with Amberlynn, and that particular video was an example of that. Not to mention that actually in her video shortly after that, she ends up editing it to make it look like I was saying something rude about the way that she looked. I don't need these shots or things I don't need. Okay, well, first of all, so now I see what people are talking about, so I'm gonna see what I can include. But she cut out the whole part of Becky talking with her phone literally filming from this angle. So that's what I'm talking about here.
Sitting outside, enjoying the day. I'm definitely sitting. I'm sitting in the shade because it's really hot. Amberlynn over there is in the sun. No, I don't need. These shots are things I don't need. Like girl had the camera right up here. It's like this is how she's filming. This is me on Amberlynn's iPhone, and I'm filming no, why do you do this? And then what is this? What is Amberlynn doing here? I have a lot of questions. I'm talking about literally. I don't understand the camera choices that Becky makes to hold it down here. Most people, when they're filming or they're taking a selfie, they film it from above. And so that's why I continuously am confused about the angles that Becky chooses. I think I also mentioned, if I remember correctly, that I don't understand why we're just filming Amberlynn sitting there on this little back cement patio. But I really am not, that face that she just showed there for 2 seconds is not a response to seeing Amberlynn's body. I'm not disgusted by Amberlynn's body. I just want to make that clear, because that's not what I conveyed in the original video. And if she's about to say that here, then girl, a mess.
Literally, it's my back. Honestly, he just said these shots are what I don't need, and the face he made when Becky showed my back.
It wasn't about your back. That face wasn't made in response to your back.
About how to make fun of Amberlynn's appearance.
No, ma'am.
Nothing like that. He always rants about he's not a cyberbully, he doesn't bully people, he's not judging.
I don't think I am.
Becky literally just showed the back of me. That's it.
Again, this is out of context, sis. This is not what happened. Let me repeat for anybody who's new to my channel. That is not what happened in the original video.
He's spazzing out. I don't need these shots. It's my back.
Girl, it was your girlfriend's angle of her face. I mean, at least try to make the stretch that I'm trying to make some comments about Becky's looks I wasn't, but at least make that, because that would have been more accurate and honest than what you're doing here. It had nothing to do with your back, sis. Couldn't care less about your back. I absolutely could not.
If I was skinny, he wouldn't be saying that. If it was Eric's back, he wouldn't be saying that.
I didn't say it about your back.
He is literally judging me based
I'm
on
not.
appearance, and of course, everyone is totally fine with that because it's Zachary Michaels.
But yeah, in general, the worst thing that I feel like I said in that video was that Beck seemed like they weren't having a good time. And I feel like Amberlynn using the word abusive to describe the way I was treating Beck in that video is more telling about what Amberlynn views or perceives as abuse than it does anything about me. Like, if that meets Amberlynn's standards for abuse, then what does Amberlynn throwing code red at Destiny to prevent Destiny from going to see her mom constitute? What do you think Amberlynn would call manipulating Beck financially and not letting them get a job and getting upset when they would save money? What would you call that, Amberlynn? What does Amberlynn call it when she forces people to set timers, like her partners to set timers for the amount of time that they get to spend with family and friends, and gets upset when they spend too much time with their family and friends? And what do y'all think Amberlynn would call it when she forces partners to play choosy for hours, sometimes days at a time? I don't know. I think these are just some things to think about. Like, if me being critical about whether or not it looked like Beck enjoyed their time participating in this video constitutes abuse, then what the fuck does that make you, Amberlynn Reed? Like, for real, for real. And when it comes to the GoFundMe for Beck's mom, I actually, interestingly enough, have talked about this at different points on my channel and Twitch streams and things like that throughout the time since it happened. In particular, I think myself and a lot of creators got a lot of questions around the time that Beck's mom actually passed away. I remember at the time a lot of people, were trying to throw it in my face that, like, Beck's mom actually had cancer, actually passed away from cancer. And I just want to make it clear that the videos that I posted about the situation never questioned the legitimacy about Beck's mom's diagnosis. And similarly, like, I've never questioned the legitimacy of Amberlynn's diagnosis of cancer. When it comes to topics about cancer or things like that, that's extremely sensitive information. And I would never want to incorrectly speculate that somebody didn't really have it when they did. And I just want to reiterate that that was never a part of any of my videos regarding the situation. And to that extent, it would be a little bit helpful if Amberlynn could identify specifically what she wants me to apologize in regards to the GoFundMe situation. Because just saying that I should give a blanket apology for talking about it when it was something that she posted on her channel and that the community at large was talking about seems a little unfair. And also because if I'm gonna apologize for something, like, I want to know specifically what I did so that I can make sure that the apology is authentic. But let me give you a little bit of lore and backstory if you don't know a lot about what happened with the GoFundMe for Beck's mom. Once they found out that Beck's mom had cancer, Amberlynn posted a video where she and Beck sat down and talked about what was going on and had a link to a GoFundMe where people could go and donate to help support Beck's mom with various financial needs and medical expenses. At the time, I actually waited a long time to post anything about it. In fact, the very first video that I made about the situation, I actually probably spent more time explaining why I personally felt weird about covering it and wasn't sure that I wanted to cover it at all. And I talked about it like that because I shared a lot of things about my own personal experience with my family needing money and things like that when my dad spent an extended amount of time in the hospital because of heart failure. But I did ultimately make a video that outlined some of the concerns that people in the community had at the time. And certainly if you want, like, the full details of that story, you can go watch the video. But basically what it came down to was that at the time there was a woman posting on Kiwi Farms who was confirmed to be the ex-wife of the person who was in a relationship with Beck's mom. And there was all of these questions and concerns about if Beck's mom was actually married to that person. And Beck's sister was coming onto the internet and fighting with people about it and like claiming that their mom was never married to this man. And the reason that this man and his marriage to Beck's mom mattered was because the ex-wife was saying that Beck's mom should have had a lot of these expenses taken care of under this man's medical insurance. So there was a lot of questions surrounding this because of the things that this random woman was sharing. Well, not really random because, I don't know, at the time Kiwi Farms had some way of vetting and like verifying that she was actually who she said she was. But there's lots of questions surrounding that. And then Beck's sister getting on the internet and fighting with like reaction channels on Twitter and stuff at the time was also adding to the fuel surrounding the situation. The other thing that a lot of people were reasonably, I think, skeptical about was they were questioning why Amberlynn wasn't financially contributing to help out with the situation and why instead she was asking for money from her viewers to help out with the situation. And I mean, she still does this to some extent, but like back then she even did it more where she was like constantly flashing how much money she had. Like I remember in one video, she like literally opened up her purse and just like showed wads of money that she had sitting in there. And I think especially now knowing what Beck has said about some of the like financial control that Amberlynn had over them at the time, it makes even more sense to me that people were asking, like, Amberlynn, why aren't you helping? Because, like, yeah, maybe Beck couldn't help, but that's because Beck was financially dependent on Amberlynn. So, like, Amberlynn, what were you doing? And, of course, like, at the time, I believe Amberlynn was saying or did come out in some videos and said, like, well, I have, like, this is just for anybody else who wants to help out. So yeah, I do just want to clarify that, like, the extent of most of my coverage of anything related to the GoFundMe was specifically related to the concerns that people had, which included the concerns of people who had contributed financially to the GoFundMe. I think, like, outside of that initial video, the only other videos that I made about it were related to Amberlynn briefly bringing it up and not addressing what happened with the money, how the money was used, and things like that. And what I will say is that I do see a world where, like, people on the internet questioning Beck and Beck's family about what they were doing with this money could have been very distressing in a situation where they were already feeling a lot of stress. And to that extent, I can certainly apologize for that if that's what Amberlynn's talking about. Because, yeah, I definitely can see a world where that would have been very tough and difficult to deal with. The internet all coming at you when you're already dealing with the very difficult processing of finding out that your mom has cancer. What I will say about that particular coverage of things regarding the GoFundMe is that since then, and I have shared this in videos and on Twitch and things like that because, I don't know, in this corner of the internet, GoFundMe's come up a lot. But my thoughts and feelings about GoFundMe's and helping people with GoFundMe's has really shifted since that time. And all of that to say is that my thoughts are that if you choose to donate to a GoFundMe, you're doing that in good faith. You're doing that in good faith that the person that you're donating that money to is going to use it for what they say they need it for or whatever might come up that they didn't expect. And you're always able to just not donate to something if you don't trust where the money is going or things like that. And to that extent, I think even I searched GoFundMe on my channel to see, like, to find the videos that I talked about this in. And I found actually another video where I talked about Beck setting up a GoFundMe post-breakup from Amberlynn. And a lot of people were even skeptical about that GoFundMe, about the GoFundMe that Beck set up for themselves. And I think that was generally my response at the time too, which is just that, like, hey, if people want to donate to Beck, they can donate to Beck and they just have to trust that what Beck uses that money for is what they really need to use that money for. So yeah, that's my thoughts to most of the stuff that Amberlynn had to say about me. I think it's wild wild work for Amberlynn to continue to use this word abusive in regards to talking about me, especially considering the ways that she has reached out to me multiple times. I mean, even since the last time that she called me abusive, she got into my DMs and wanted to talk to me. And I was like, girl, you literally just got out of a video calling me abusive. Why the fuck are you in my DMs? But like, if she felt like I was being abusive to Beck back then, girl, she was DMing me back then too. She was DMing me back then too. So like, why? If that's really truly how you feel, why, Amberlynn? And like I said, if Beck wants to hash anything out about what I or other reaction channels have had to say about them in the past, I think that's more than fair for them to do. I certainly have been critical of Beck at different points, and I don't think I've ever claimed that Beck has been without criticism. But what I will say, and the major difference for why I do really believe a lot of the things that Beck has said in their latest videos, is that Beck, you can tell by the way that they talk about their experiences, by the way that they articulate themselves, like, you can tell that they've done work, that they have changed. And they might still not be a perfect person, but I've said this before and I'll say it again, like, it is clear that Beck has done a lot of stuff to get themselves to a different place than they were, especially when they were in a relationship with Amberlynn. But even in the past few years, like, they have come back at different points and posted on YouTube and things like that. And it's this go around that I'm like, oh, I definitely feel like a difference in Beck. I feel a difference in their energy and their attitude and the way that they talk about things. And that's something that Amberlynn can't relate to, and Amberlynn hasn't experienced because Amberlynn hasn't done that work. She only allegedly just started therapy. She hasn't ever consistently stuck with therapy. She looks for excuses to avoid accountability. So, yeah. Have I been critical of Beck in the past? Absolutely, for sure have. Do we have more information that changes the way we think about things? Do we have different lenses to look at some of the stuff in the past? Absolutely. Anyways, all of that to say, outside of that, the other thing I want to say that I think is interesting is that a couple videos ago, she mentioned, again, as part of like her boundaries, that she's not really watching reaction channels anymore. But the fact that she put such an emphasis on knowing that I watch her members only live streams, I think indicates that she's been watching me, because I've been, talking about that more recently in my videos. And she also at some point later in the live stream also fully says like, oh, on one of the reaction channels that I still watch, they said blah, 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 blah. So I just think that's interesting. I mean, just another example of like her boundaries not meaning anything to her. And I guess what I'll say about that to some extent is like, she makes a big deal about me still watching her content, even though I might not enjoy every second of it. Yeah, well, this is my job, Amberlynn. My job, to some extent, is covering you. I do keep up with some stuff, and I do enjoy my job for the most part and covering this stuff for the most part. Not everybody loves every second of every aspect of their job, but sitting through your members-only live streams, sitting through your public live streams is something I will do for my job if I have to. What isn't your job is keeping up with all of the reaction channels. You don't have to do that. You can just sit there and vlog. All you have to do is wake up and turn on that camera and talk about your life and show us your life. And the only other thing I want to say before I wrap up is that as Casey's podcast comes out today, I did just want to note that Amberlynn did speak a little bit about that as well.
The collabs are out of nowhere, which is crazy. I definitely understand like the Beck and Destiny situation, because like we were all friends at one point, and Destiny is just like, like, don't even get me started on that. So I understand, why that's happening. But like the Casey thing is what like literally leaves my jaw on the floor, because Beck and Destiny both know the truth, and I have told them the truth ad nauseum. It's something I literally cried about, like, and opened up to them about. And now, just because like we're broken up, and oh God, that to me like is probably like the most triggering thing out of the whole situation. Yeah. That really sucks.
And I think her wording and her saying Beck and Destiny know the truth when they weren't actually present for the actual situation that happened is very interesting. What they know, Amberlynn, is your truth, or what you understand to be the truth, or what you're proclaiming to be the truth. They know your story. We also know that, I mean, it was just a year or two ago that Casey did an interview with Mr. Snowflake where he shared his side of the story. He shared the ways that you were manipulative of him, the ways that you treated him. So to say that Beck and Destiny know the truth, well, like, really the only people that know the truth about that situation were you and Casey. You were the only ones there. And I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about situations regarding assault because, especially if I wasn't there, like, who am I to say who's telling the truth in that story? But for you to expect loyalty from Destiny and Beck when they've shared the ways that you've financially abused them, manipulated them, treated them, is kind of wild. It's kind of wild. So anyways, that ended up being a much longer video than I anticipated. So I want to say thank you so much for watching the whole thing and also your patience, because I'm sure it took me a while to get this posted to the internet. And by the time that this gets posted, I'm sure Casey's podcast will already be out. So stay tuned. I'm sure I'll watch through that and let you know if I have thoughts about it. And then tomorrow, Amberlynn has another new vlog out. So I'm going to work on getting content out to you and my thoughts about all of those things out to you as soon as I can. And as always, thanks so much for being here and watching and listening to my thoughts. I know you all have a variety of ways that you could spend your time, energy, and resources, and I'm grateful that you chose to spend some of it with me. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get notifications. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!